Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us to talk a little bit about Lesson 5 of our adult Sabbath School lesson. Psalms is a wonderful book, and I'm glad that you've joined us all to talk a little bit about it. I'm here with Pastor Sasha and my friend Eric, and I'm just going to start off with the text right before our memory text for this lesson, Psalms 37, 3 and 4. For there those who carried us away captive asked of us a song, and those who plundered us requested mirth, saying, "Sing us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land?" So, Pastor, how shall we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land?
Well, this is a very interesting psalm, by the way. And yes, this is kind of an interesting debate about it. Whether this psalm is actually written at the end by someone who was in the Babylonian captivity. That's basically what many commentators would say. But I have a question about this psalm, which always bothered me a lot. Let's open this psalm. It's 137, correct? Yes, that's what I was referring to. And when we look at this psalm, I think it's kind of a very short one. Let's just, can you read it all together for us?
Beginning to end. Let's do it. Okay. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yeah, we wept. When we remembered Zion, we hung our harps upon the willows in the midst of it. For there those who carried us away captive asked of us a song, and those who plundered us requested mirth, saying, "Sing us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? If I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget its skill. If I do not remember you, let my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth. If I do not exalt Jerusalem above my chief joy. Remember, O Lord, against the sons of Edom, the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, to its very foundation. O daughter of Babylon, who are to be destroyed, happy the one who repays you as you have served us. Happy the one who takes and dashes your little ones against the rock."
When you read these last verses, how do you feel about this kind of language?
To me, it sounds like they're sad.
Yeah.
They don't sound happy. It sounds like it. To me, it sounds like they're leaving home and going someplace else, and they don't know how they're going to do it. That's what I'm gathering from that.
Right.
Yes.
And even that last part kind of gives me the idea, like somebody's like, "Oh, how are you?" "Fine."
Yeah. I'm more looking at this kind of imagery down below, verse 8 and 9. You know, "O daughter of Babylon," they're really like wishing this city to be destroyed. And I mean, happy is the one who dashes the little babies against the rock.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yeah, they're talking about the Babylonians, right?
Well, that's an interesting question. It took me like many years to think about this psalm, because actually in the Bible, in the book of Psalms, there are several imprecatory psalms, and they are really full of wishes. Somebody's pretty bad, and it's just like, how do you read this after Jesus says, "Love your enemies, bless those who curse you"?
Wait, what's imprecatory?
Actually, it's interesting because it's a theological term. I mean, I've known it since I was taking the courses on exegesis. But basically, imprecation, it's the same as curse.
Okay.
I don't know. Have you heard this word, Eric?
It sounds familiar, but I didn't know the meaning.
So
At least Monique asked the question because I was just rolling with
yeah.
yes, it makes sense. I understand in context, but
yeah, it's very interesting because I just took it as I was reading about this in a book, and then it's a curse. So at some point I kind of went on a Google and checked the English. What's the difference between imprecation and curse? And so the Google answered me that the imprecation, because in my opinion was, there is an anger and there is indignation.
Okay.
So there is a curse and there is imprecation. So I thought indignation is a nice way of saying it, because biblically anger is a pretty bad, but you can express righteous indignation. So I thought there is a righteous imprecation. Not really. Imprecation is even worse than a curse. It's stronger. That's what Google says. I'm not sure if that's the way it is, but since English isn't my native language, I wouldn't be able to tell.
Okay.
yeah, that's fair.
But that's why these psalms are like, just. I wish you are to be destroyed, you those who captured us. I wish your babies to be, dashed against the rock. That's brutal.
Yeah, I could see it being a heavy metal song.
Yeah, right.
That's why, I know some people, and even in a Sabbath school lesson, they were discussing here, we're weeping, we're in such a weeping mood, but then at the end he comes like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know how often do you come from melancholy to an outward expression of such an anger.
Yeah.
And it's not the first time that he's done this. And you reminded me of another psalm where he literally is sitting there wishing death upon his enemies. Like David kind of does this often. Like he has these moments where he's like, expressing the melancholies of life, the sadness and like these deep, rich emotions. And then he kind of just goes into this like vengeful spirit.
Yes, that's very important to notice. It took me many, many years, as I said, to analyze Psalms like this, to see what's going on and how am I to actually put it as a Bible scholar. Here are the words of Jesus and here are the words of David. Yeah. And it's like, of course, somebody may say, it's just the Old Testament. And based on this, you have this trend in Christian tradition where they say, the God of the Old Testament is really, really full of anger, and he is okay to sanction, for his people to rip the baby out of the mother's arm and throw this baby against the rock.
Yeah.
And then comes, nice and kind Jesus saying, love your enemy, bless those who curse you. And so this kind of dichotomy in the Bible was known. And so Christian tradition acts like this, but really, it's like, what are we talking about? Are we talking Jesus, the Son, is a kind and nice and loving, and the Father having an anger issues?
Yeah, right. Because it's kind of like it doesn't seem like it works, and it doesn't seem like you can do both.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We can't do both. I mean, Jesus says, "I and the Father is one." So you can't have a kind Jesus who is going and trying to plead before the Father, who is absolutely furious against you, the sinner. And so you plead, Jesus, you go deal with the Father, because otherwise he's gonna incinerate me in a fiery hell.
So how do we reconcile the two then, between what we're reading here and the dichotomy between the Old Testament and the New Testament?
Yeah. It's not possible in this kind of lesson to answer every single question, but after many, many years of research and prayer, this is, I don't know if you will like this answer, but I came into a conclusion that there are psalms which have a prophetic and symbolic meaning.
Okay.
For example, let's take this. When you go to Psalm 22, just if we read a few verses, let's say verse 1 and 2.
My God, why have you forsaken me? For far from my help are the words of my groaning. My God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but I have no rest.
Yes, so these are the words of David. Also, how do they sound to you?
Sad.
He's sad.
He's definitely melancholic and depressed.
Yeah. Yeah, depressed. Like, I don't want to say it, but yeah, man sounds depressed. Yeah.
Definitely depressed, definitely. But if we read a little further, let's read verses 16 through 18.
Dibs. For dogs have surrounded me. The congregation of the wicked has enclosed me. They pierced my hands and my feet. I can count all my bones. They look and stare at me. They divide my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots.
Let's think a little bit. Has David ever had his hands and feet ever pierced?
No, never.
And then his garments are divided? No. What does it look to you like?
Jesus.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the prophet. This is how the prophetic psalm looked like. This is how David here is just, he's not speaking for himself.
Okay.
He's speaking in a symbolic language. And how do we know that this actually doesn't happen to him? And then we recognize later that we see, that's exactly what Jesus said on the cross. My God, why have thou forsaken me? And the gospel writers record, that fulfilled the prophecy that they divided his garment. It's exactly what was predicted. So going back, without analyzing number of very similar psalms, so these type of psalms, when they describe such depressive feelings, which then turn around and wish some kind of a curse, that's usually not the personal emotions of the author. These are actually an inspired prophecies. It's a poetic form. In this poetic form, the prophecy, the future, was predicted. So, to make the long story short, going back to Psalm 137, we basically have another meaning for the Babylon. I don't know if you ever heard about this, but the book of Isaiah describes Babylon as the kingdom of Satan. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, I just read a little bit here, just to make an idea. What am I talking about? So it's Isaiah chapter 14. Let's just read verse 4.
Okay. That you will take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how the oppressor has ceased, the golden city ceased.
Yeah. So seems to be a king of Babylon, right? But here is finally it refers to the name of the king of Babylon. How about reading verse 12 and 13?
How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. How you are cut down to the ground. For you who weakened the nations, for you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation, on the farthest sides of the north.
Does it look like a king of Babylon to you?
I mean, I
Like
guess not.
Nebuchadnezzar,
Right.
Hammurabi.
Yeah.
See, this is the type of very metaphoric language. So they use the imagery of like an enemy of Israel. Although in the times of Isaiah, Babylon as the Israel enemy didn't even exist.
Okay, so I feel like we've kind of touched on the fact that like Psalms is prophetic, but I guess I didn't understand just like how deeply. Like it just seems like it's like prophecy is just all over the place. Like it's not like you can kind of pinpoint these different areas. It's just whenever you feel like it's getting a little too, I don't know, just like like a little too emotional. Is that when it's like prophetic? Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When you have this kind of emotions raging from deep, deep, deep despair and then into the curse. Because that's something which is, we can observe it when we look at how actually Jesus was dying on a cross. So take a look at, for example, Matthew chapter 27.
And those who passed by blasphemed him, wagging their heads, and saying, you who destroyed the temple and built it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross. Likewise, the chief priests also, mocking with the scribes and elders, said, he saved others, himself he cannot save. If he is the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God, let him deliver him now, if he will have him, for he said, I am the Son of God.
Yeah. Look at this type of phrase. If you are the Son of God. Do you remember who once said it to Jesus?
Oh, Satan.
Yeah. When?
In the wilderness?
Correct. So, if you look at the book Desire of Ages, those who read it, it's interesting that it was noted there that it was Satan himself who said this word. I can believe that.
Yeah.
Because it's exactly this kind of, if you are the Son of God. So when it comes to these curses, it's always curses against the empire of Satan, against the Satan. It's not like curses against somebody who is just an ordinary man. So to make a little conclusion about Psalm 137, I've quite a serious reasons, valid reasons to believe that Psalm 137 was not written during the time when when Jewish people went to the Babylonian exile. Because if you look at the text there, there are many things besides the fact that this just, blessed are those who dash her kids over the rock. But if you look at the psalm very carefully, like it's say, okay, I can imagine we sat down and remembered Zion. All right, I can say. But we hung our harps upon the willows. There are those who carried us away. Captive asked us of a song. And they asked us to sing the song of Zion. I don't see anywhere in the Bible during, I read the book of Ezekiel, I read the book of Daniel. These are the prophets that wrote the books in the Babylonian exile. The book of Esther was written during the period of Babylonian exile. I don't see anywhere where some of the Babylonians, right? Esther was written already during the Persia, but either with Daniel or with Ezekiel, nobody of Babylonians asked them to sing the song for Zion.
Yeah.
So, in my humble opinion, this psalm deals with the spiritual Babylon. Spiritual Babylon is presented in the Old Testament, in the book of Isaiah, as the kingdom of Satan and the kingdom of paganism. And so, since the book of Psalms definitely was in existence during the time of David, where there was nothing about Babylonian captivity that David has predicted, in my humble opinion, the idea of basically this psalm is to show the curse to the satanic kingdom. But it is written, and that's what is important. Many psalms are written in a very cultural language of the time. So the imagery here is, yes, the babies are dashed against the rocks. That's what
That's awful imagery.
it's terrible imagery. But
Yes.
this is like the imagery when the conqueror breaks through the wall and finally captures the city and subdues the city, destroys the remaining armies. And yeah, that's a terrible imagery. It's described many times in the Bible, in different books of the Bible. They would basically ransack the city. They would absolutely, it was like a macho culture, if we could say it in today's language, to rape women and all the babies, to be, that's what they did. This is what the Assyrian invaders did. This is all these hordes of invaders did from the ancient Near Eastern time all the way to Genghis Khan empire. This is what they did. So the psalmist is using this imagery. The question is, I've always thought about what kind of babies here would be to the Babylon, which is the kingdom of Satan, the kingdom of paganism. And again, I was able to find the story, the chapter in the book of Isaiah.
Okay. Wait. Okay. No, wait. The babies of. Well, I guess yeah, because it's saying here.
Yeah.
That's what kind of leads me to think that this is literal, because I've never heard of a spiritual baby of Babylon. So I mean, I guess.
Take a look.
Okay.
Take a look. That's a good question. So take a look at Isaiah 21, verse 9.
Now behold, here comes a troop of riders, horsemen in pairs, and one said, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon, and all the images of her gods are shattered on the ground."
You see?
Okay, that's really interesting.
Her gods shattered on the ground. So it's about the idols and idol worship. So this is what I meant. The psalm is highly symbolic. The intent of the psalm is not to teach us that we can be in the state of anger and wish somebody to be cursed and death and something like this. I mean, we can definitely be in a state of kind of indignation, but not to the point that wishing somebody death. But here, it's definitely wish the death to the Satan, which is pretty fine with me.
Yeah, it's
And,
a lot.
and idolatry, which is fine with me too.
Yeah,
And I think it's fine with Jesus too.
Okay. So then that almost changes my perspective on Psalms a little bit because I really appreciate it. I was like, oh, this is so raw. This is so real. But now it's sounding a lot less real. It's sounding a lot more symbolic and spiritual, which is all good things and it's all really important. But then how can we steer clear of over spiritualizing our actual lives? I think me and you have talked about that a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we have to. This is what a little bit we need to study Bible in some depth. Some of the biblical texts are not that easy.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're over spiritualizing everything which is written in the Bible, but sometimes there are some prophetic, symbolic expressions, such as, in Psalms, we have to be aware that they exist.
Okay.
I have so many more questions we do not have time for.
Okay. Well, let me know. I'll write them down and we'll include them in our next lesson. Lesson 6 is coming up pretty soon, so please look out for it. And how you know you're not going to miss it is if you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, and like this video so we know to keep them coming. Thanks so much for joining us in this time and in this moment, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Goodbye.